designed them to be trusted with our homes, with our way of life, with our world. But did we design them to be trusted?
The rollout of USR's new generation of robot, the NS-5, was marred by the death of designer Alfred Lanning.
Identified. Murder's a new trick for a robot. Respond.
I did not murder him!
We're gonna miss the good old days.
What good old days?
When people were killed by other people.
So when did you guys watch iRobot?
Last week.
Today.
I watched it in 2004.
I was transported to 2004. And not just because I was looking at his Chuck Taylors.
Yeah, that's one of the main things I want to talk about. It's just the shameless product placement of this movie. I forgot how like egregious it is, right? It's what does he say?
Vintage 2004, I believe. Like vintage covers, like circa 2004.
Yeah.
Vintage 2004, yeah.
That's right. That's actually how I remember this, like what year this movie came out is because of that line.
Me too.
That line's like cemented in my brain.
I'd say that's one of the worst offenses you can commit is if you have a movie set in the future and you nail it to the time that the movie was produced on screen.
Yes. It's so funny because I remember seeing that as a kid, the product placement of the Chuck Taylors, and there's probably like you could make an argument for like Audi because he drives like an Audi car. Yeah. I remember seeing that as a kid, like the real blatant call out of the Converse and like the close up on the shoes. And just thinking that was like part of the character development, I was like, oh yeah, like his character's supposed to be a cool guy, and obviously like cool guys wear Converse. So like the marketing or the product placement just worked perfectly on me, like as designed.
Unsure kid. Sure. Crucially though, you were what, 13? So
10. Yeah.
10.
Yeah. Huh. Yeah, I also saw it in theaters where Trevor worked at the time. He actually sold me the ticket.
I did not work there in 2004. Our age difference is like way bigger than I remember.
2 years later, we're roommates in college. Let's see how these things work out.
Plot hole. So Raul, what did you think of it when you saw it as a kid?
I loved it. And specifically that product placement, like completely went over my head as a product placement. I just appreciated it for what it was, like this guy in the future who's into retro stuff. And he like special ordered these vintage shoes on eBay for like $100 or something. Like not even that much money. Like in the world of like shoe heads, it's not that much money, but
yeah.
I
forgot about that. He's like, it's not just the Converse, but he's overall into like old technology. Like that's part of his whole character.
Sure.
And it's all like just shitty stuff from 2004.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
The good old days.
Yeah.
That's like, what he is. He's like a good old days, but it's a 2004.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he's the futuristic version of a Luddite, basically. Like he resists all this robot shit. And he wants to go back to the the good old days of 2004.
Maybe
how
like
long has this character been this way? Sorry.
Well, I wanted to ask, like if we'll eventually ever see 2004 in that kind of light, or the early aughts, or if those are like cemented as like a bad decade.
That's a good time in like internet culture, I think. Like I'm nostalgic for the internet of that age because I was young when I was discovering the internet. And
yeah. I'm just trying to think if like frosted tips and like puka necklaces and like bootcut jeans at some point will be like, man, people look so fucking cool like in 2004.
Oh, so it's beyond just like, I see. So it's beyond us thinking of it as a cool fashion statement and then entering just like that was a great time. Because I think now you could make the argument that especially Gen Z is really into that sort of fashion and that culture and that pop culture, but we don't necessarily see it as like a decade to reflect on, you know.
Yes.
like we do the 80s or the 50s or the 70s. So
Yeah.
I don't know. That's a good question. What a bleak thought though, because it was a pretty low point. It was a low point for many reasons.
Many things.
Yeah, politically, culturally,
Yeah.
socially.
So I have a question about like the timeline of this character's hatred for robots and his nostalgic tendencies. So in the movie, it's presented as like the motivation for that is that that kid dad dies because of that accident he was in.
Yeah.
That seemed like a relatively recent occurrence, right? So
Yeah.
was he repping 2004 that hard, just like his whole life up until then, or did he get in that car crash and just have like this life crisis, which also changed like his fashion sense?
Yeah.
He started like ordering old Nikes and like dressing and
That's a great point. I
want to know.
That's a great point because it's sort of like I had this thought when I was watching it however many weeks ago that he now would be sort of seen as like a radical like alt-right guy, like with a podcast, right, where he would be like, man, remember a time when like stuff ran on gas and like men were men, like you could see like Will Smith's character on a podcast like saying like toxic shit. So like, yeah, maybe he had this like traumatic experience and then he just wholesale was like, 2004 was just a better time, like technologically, culturally, like, and I'm just gonna like commit my whole personality to that.
Yeah, and I think we can all agree that he would be insufferable to be around, right?
Totally, he sucks. Like as a
He sucks.
character,
He like
he's
I'm
not
trying.
likable at all.
I tried leveling it with like Men in Black, right? The height of Will Smith, like his charisma and his star power, but also like matched with the material. And it's just like, it's the same level of charisma and he does the best and he acts it well, but the character just fucking sucks. He's so insufferable. His motivations don't really make sense. Like it's just not, his little quips just don't work, man. They don't work in this movie.
It seems like they barely gave him a script and they were just like, just do Will Smith. Like, we'll figure it out.
The whole freeway, like, car chase scene was improvised.
Yeah, his character sucks, like, just on a personal level. And he's also just, like, kind of dumb and foolish about a lot of things. Like, people get on him about driving, right? Because it's dangerous to drive because all the vehicles are, like, autonomous and go at super high speeds. And he's like, no, like, I don't even know why he doesn't, like, he wants to drive. But it's, like, objectively dangerous. And if he has, like, passengers in the movie, too, he's, like, irresponsible.
Yeah, and he has road rage. He's, like, yelling. He's, like, cussing out of the cars. He's like, son of a bitch. I'm like, they're all automated, dude. You're the only problem here.
Yeah.
That near crash, guess whose fault it was?
And it's, like, it's funny because, eventually Will Smith, like, gets his comeuppance, right, where he, like, all the robots turn out to be bad or whatever. And he gets to say, I told you so for, like, the whole third act of the movie. But, like, it doesn't seem like he understood why AI was problematic in that movie. He was just, like, prejudice, and he happened to, like, be on... His, like, prejudice happened to be right about these people, but it wasn't for the reason that he thought it was, right?
Yeah, I think that's a good point. And I had a similar thought throughout the movie, which is like, I think this movie gives a bad name to people who are skeptical, like justifiably skeptical of this sort of world, because again, he is a dumb guy, and his skepticism seems to be born out of confusing or like wrong-headed reasons. So yeah, I had an issue with that for sure.
It's weird that like nobody else in this society has zero issues with the robots. Like there was no like it's hard for me to believe that was society was able to transition into being like fully robot automated and there was no naysayers. Like I just can't 2022 minds. Like I can't believe that would happen in this country.
It's probably like a product of when the movie was made, right? just more cultural and political unification across the board, at least more so than right now. So people, they just accelerated that to 2035, and they're like, yeah, we'll agree on like most things. You know, the country will be on the same page about most things.
It's hard to envision a 2022 version of this movie where there aren't like factions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will say I made a note that I kind of appreciate that they just straight up call them robots, that they don't have like a catchy like socialized name for them, you know, because you watch a movie. So like AI, the term mech, like obviously I get it, but it always kind of rubs me the wrong way because it seems a little too cutesy or I don't know, cool. I feel like we would just call them robots, or we would call them like a brand name, like whatever like the brand of robot is that wins out in the government contracts.
Well, they do this, right? They call them like by their model numbers, like the NS-17 or something.
Sure. But
And that's
generally people are just saying like robots, right? We have robots in our houses. It's called U.S. robotics. So I kind of I like that aspect.
I wonder if like the traditional like science fiction of interpretation of robots exists in this universe. Do you think they had like old movies with robots in them, with like guys saying robot and stuff?
Yes.
I assume yes is my answer.
Okay.
I think so.
Which is why it's so hard to believe that like it's not that much in the future, and we're almost there now.
Did we get a date?
Super close.
Did we get a date?
2035.
2030.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's very close.
Way too close.
So we have a decade.
I remember like thinking, for whatever reason, I've always remembered the year that this like takes place, because I saw this movie like a million times on FX, and so I've all like 2035 is like cemented for me, and like I gauge like my point. You ever seen those like graphs on like Reddit where it shows like chronologically where every like science fiction movie takes place? Like
Sure. Yeah.
you know, iRobot like 2035, and you have like Alien that's like 2135 or something.
Yeah.
Like way down here.
Yeah.
That all
It's like
this
20,000 something.
Yeah. This one always feels like the closest out of any like sci-fi movie that lives in my brain.
Sure. Other than 2001, right?
Yes. Well, primarily because I only started thinking about this well after 2001.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I feel like Blade Runner maybe is like 2019, I think, right? Because then 2049 is 30 years after. But
Uh-huh.
yeah.
And like the Back to the Future is like 2018
Yeah.
or 2015. It's 2015.
Is it 2015?
Yeah, I remember because they specifically do it because it's 1955,
85.
85, and then 2015.
I like. So what do you think about this movie overall? I like on rewatch. I actually thought it was like very watchable. I think Will Smith is probably like one of the worst parts of the movie.
Yeah, I think that's probably like my number one thing is that Will Smith is way less likable than I remember. Because like Justin said, this was at like peak Will Smith. And I think that, I don't know, like I was just dumber back then too, didn't have a sense of anything. And so I was like, hey, Will Smith's a cool guy. Like he wouldn't make a movie where he was like a bad guy or insufferable. So yeah, I overall just liked Will Smith back then, and now I don't like him in this movie. I don't like him necessarily in real life for other reasons, but like in this movie, he's way less likable than I recall.
You're Team Jada. That's what you're saying.
I'm team, I don't want to talk about Hollywood as much as possible.
Chris Rock's face, though.
Let's litigate the we're finally taking on the 2022 Oscars.
Yeah, there's been enough space.
I would agree with you, Raul, that I found it pretty watchable. I thought it was far too long. I really found myself drawn toward my phone toward the middle of the movie.
Yeah.
It just kind of drags. Yeah, I don't like his character. Don't really care about any of the characters. So it's a real mixed bag. But I would say that I like the production design. I thought generally that was okay. The effects were I give him like a C plus, maybe a B,
yeah.
maybe even a B in parts.
Kind of impressive for the time.
Yeah, there was some good. I think the main the Alan Tudyk robot I think looks great. They pull him off well, and the face is reliably creepy in a realistic way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think another reason I really like this movie is that it introduced like a lot of really cool sci-fi concepts around robotics. Stuff that's like touched on by much better movies like AI or Bicentennial Man, which is arguably better than AI. And this movie it's like a B version of those movies, but it's still watchable. And so I think it made a good impression on me when I was young, just for those reasons.
This movie's impression on me was completely involuntary because of just strictly how much it was on TV. Like, I think I've seen this movie more than any other sci-fi movie for that reason. So, like,
That's great.
a lot of the ways I think about, like, future technology is through the lens of iRobot, without my consent. That's just how it is.
Yeah. It's so funny. I already talked about this, but when you initially mentioned this movie, I thought you said robots, because that is also like kind of a TV movie.
2005,
Right.
I think.
Right.
After.
2005. And it just strikes me as like a TV kind of movie where it's just always playing on some, FX or, I don't know, USA or something.
Yeah. I watched Robots this year for the first time probably since it came out. Me and Chris actually got drunk. Like, he came and visited us in Colorado. We just like got drunk one night and we're like talking about robots while we were out. We like, when we got back to the apartment, we like turned on Robots.
That's so funny. And we like put on Bicentennial Man when I went to visit you.
That's right.
That is the most Trevor. Those are the most Trevor stories I've ever heard. We just got drunk and then eventually ended up watching Robots.
What's the next movie? RoboCop classic. Well, that's just a classic, of course.
Yeah. Justin's, I think, probably got more of those than anybody else.
Totally. Yeah. I'll never forget. You know what? No, tangent. Go on, Raul.
No, what are you going to say? Because I feel like I know what you're going to say. Just give me the
Pop
answer.
it off.
I just remember one night we had like a little party or gathering at your house, and it was like 1 a.m, and you were playing the Goofy movie for us, and I turned to Elizabeth and I said, "Just so you know, this is how it always goes. When I come home at 2:30 in the morning from Trevor's, I'm coming home from watching like old episodes of, I don't know, Cat Dog or something that were ripped. It was a good teachable moment.
Cool.
Great.
Thanks for that.
It is on brand, right? Like watching Simpsons on Halloween. But no, I was just gonna steer the conversation toward positives of the movies of iRobot. One thing that I really liked is kind of just the whole setup of the first half of the movie. That's Jesus Christ.
You okay?
He's getting emotional thinking about the inhaler lady.
No, but I really like the detective setup of this, where there was a murder at the beginning and it was under mysterious circumstances, and Will Smith is compelled by this old scientist guy to investigate.
Yeah.
I like that, and I liked how it ultimately resolved itself.
It is. I did kind of forget about that, even though it's very central to the way the movie works. I kind of forgot that it's sort of a noir is probably too strong of a word, but like a mystery, like a murder mystery as its fulcrum.
It follows the noir patterns.
Yeah, I just forgot about that. I forgot that the whole story was like a detective story. Thought it was just like Will Smith fighting robots.
And I'm assuming that's a complete fabrication of the screenwriters, right? This was not in the Asimov material at all. I'm guessing the whole like detective angle.
Have you read that, Raul? The original stuff? I forget. Is it like a collection of stories? Like the iRobot's like it's not just like one story. It's like something else.
It's a series of novels, isn't it? Am I remembering that correctly? You're right. It is not just one item. But I've never read any of the iRobot source material.
Me neither. What's the deal? I'd be curious. Maybe this is more to do with the source material. Why it's called I, robot? Is it like?
I have an idea.
Is it like first person of a robot speaking about itself?
I think it's a take on like I, Claudius. It's almost like a play on words. Yeah. I actually don't think it's meant to convey any sort of thematic message.
It's confusing
I could be
too
wrong,
because this is right at the beginning of like Apple's like dominance with like everything. So
Yeah.
and there is a company now called iRobot, spelled like iPod.
Right.
So I remember when this movie came out, it like the way it was written just like looked really strange to my 2004 brain because I had iPods and iMacs at that point.
Yeah. That brings me to something that I want to bring up, but I'll bring it up towards the end of the episode, so I'll make a note of that.
Okay.
It has something to do with Apple and 2004 and all this jazz. I made a bunch of notes. I don't know if you guys kept notes, but do you guys just want to go through the movie?
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
Does anybody have a copy of it?
So no, I don't have it handy. I feel like I have a good memory of it. I feel like I could.
Yeah. 2004 wasn't that long ago.
So there's that great opening scene that I think is like very funny, very effective, with him chasing down the running robot with the purse,
Yeah.
Yeah.
which is just so funny because the audience is thinking the same thing that Will Smith is thinking. You know,
Yeah.
being running with
We don't-
purse.
Yeah. We don't know that robots are very commonplace and like it's universally accepted that they are like infallible by most people.
Right.
I remember that scene. I don't know if you guys will appreciate this or not, but that scene is something that really sticks out in my brain as a kid because it was the first time I clued into like what shutter speed was on a camera.
Yeah. I had this thought
It's-
today.
That like why I remember watching Will Smith like run through the streets and I was like, why does this footage like look so weird like compared to the rest of the movie? And it's because it's shot at a high shutter speed. It's like what action movies do or did more of back then, where there's like absolutely no motion blur in an image, and that's why it looks really choppy. But I remember seeing that as a kid and just like not being able to articulate what I was seeing. And it just feeling different. Did you guys have a similar experience?
Like as a kid, I think I did. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember having that as a kid. I did today. It made me like think, oh yeah, this is totally like a 2004 way of shooting this sequence. I had a similar experience with it's in Signs, and this is an effect that's in I guess famously Reservoir Dogs, but it's that sort of a slow motion effect where it's stuttery instead of a smooth slow motion. I know there's a name for it. I can't remember what it is, but I remember as a kid thinking this looks like shit. Why wouldn't you just do regular slow motion? Because in Science, it takes place at like an emotional climax towards the end of the movie. I was consciously aware of like a weird like camera choice that was made.
Yeah.
I still hate that effect.
It's a bad effect. I don't care what anybody says. I don't care if it's supposed to be like as a used as a thematic thing or whatever, but it's just bad.
It looks janky.
This is crazy because I remember even like further back having like a problem articulating, I don't know, just before you know literally anything as a kid, but you notice things. So like when you watch the news with your parents, like I mean I did at least, like we turn on like the daily news and just like those like that footage just looks different than like watching a movie. And you just like can't articulate like why that is. Like now I could say like, oh, it's frame rate, it's lighting, it's the type of cameras that they're using.
Yeah.
But back then you're just like, why does the movies look different from the news? Like I don't understand why those things wouldn't look exactly the same.
Yeah, these intangible qualities that you know it when you see it.
Yeah. Thanks for letting me share that.
Always, man.
Yeah.
So yeah, it gets the purse, and then it's revealed very quickly that he was returning the purse, and all is well. And then we're made to understand that Will Smith's kind of a weirdo for that reason.
I called him robot racist.
Yes.
Do you remember I had a dream about this a long time ago? Metal Face, yeah. Do you remember Metal Face, Justin?
Like little bits of aluminum.
Yeah, I kind of remember that.
It's like inspired by like a a modern day celebrity being caught in blackface. You like put like aluminum on, or like old school like 50s robot costumes are seen as like super racist.
That would absolutely be something that takes place in the iRobot universe, I think. Like we've been socialized to the aspect or the idea of robots to the point where I think we would be offended by someone committing metal face.
Yeah. If you go to a party dressed as Chat GPT, like right now, you'd probably get booed out of the house.
Poor taste. My note here was just, is this a metaphor for police discrimination? LOL. Because I couldn't remember where the movie was going from there, and I'm glad they don't take that road, but they kind of do. They skirt it. They skirt the road where it's like. Basically robot racism, and it's dumb. So dumb.
With this topic of like robot civil rights and just like it's like an obvious analogy to make.
Yeah,
because usually this is like in the context of like civil rights for robots, them coming up and gaining personhood and getting respect and all that.
Well, I think there are interesting ways to tackle that. I don't think this movie would be capable of those.
Yeah,
doesn't have the depth for it.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
There's too much footage of Will Smith spray painting his skin back on to fit that in. That was an interesting like take too, right? That he is kind of robot racist and he's a cyborg, essentially.
Right.
I guess.
Right. Yeah, that was a big emotional reveal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He hates himself.
Yeah, he hates himself.
He does have like this real emotional arc of him like being very bitter at the beginning, and then like through this fucking relationship with this robot friend, he like becomes a better person. He's like basically like restored robot racist.
Yeah.
He gets a robot friend. He helps him out.
Detective Spooner would later be quoted as saying like, "My best friend is a robot," while being accused of being a racist.
A reformed, robotist. That's very
Robocist.
funny. Yeah, robocist.
Robotist.
In Futurama, what do they call it? Robosexuals. You like have sex with a robot?
Yeah.
I don't want anyone thinking we're robosexuals.
Not to be confused with hobosexual, which is also from Futurama.
I will say, I love the inhaler lady. I thought that actress brought it. She was really good. She just having like five lines. It's great.
Yeah. What she says, she's like, if I could breathe, I'd be like walking up all and down your ass.
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
She had fire in her eyes.
It's hilarious. It's a hilarious scene.
Yeah. So what happens next? Does he go straight to his grandma's house?
Yeah.
It's his grandma, right?
That or he goes to the station. I can't remember. But yeah, he eventually ends up at his Nana's house. Granny, Graham, he calls her something.
Gigi.
Gigi, that's it. Yeah.
And she's that's where the product placement takes place. Is at her house, because she's like, what do you got up on your feet? Like calls it out. Converse All Stars vintage 2004.
They're lucky that Converse never really went out of style, because that would really look dumb.
It's an interesting shoe to pick, because that style has never gone away.
No. I guess that was
never gone out of style, but it's always looked like that.
You could probably make make a safe assumption like in 2004 that it would always be that way, because that's the original design of that shoe, right? So it's been around for like 50 years at this point.
That's actually a great point. I never thought about this, but that makes it even more absurd that they chose the 2004 edition of Converse, because you know that it's just a subtle little difference between the traditional like Chuck Taylor design.
Mm-hmm. It's a safe bet.
Yeah,
whatever it is.
At least it's not like, are those furry boots? Are those Uggs?
Yeah, Uggs or I don't know, New Balance, like something that's not really like terribly cool anymore.
That's probably why
coffee brown Uggs.
Yeah.
That's probably why they led with the 2004 is to establish their, or not 2004. They led with Converse to establish their credibility with like picking lasting products, because the rest of it's like shitty stuff, right? There's like a Audi, which is just a car, but like the car looks it looks like the future 2004 version of itself.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it does not look like a car that would be made today. And then like his CD player, like just like the worst technology from that time.
Yeah, it's like a Sandium
CD.
thing.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, yeah. So what their strategy was in showing like the Converse was like, see, like this is actual good stuff. All the stuff in this movie is going to stick around
Right.
until 2035.
He's wearing vintage Converse and the world's shiniest leather coat that you've ever seen.
His outfit is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like head to toe. Yeah, glossy. What I assume is faux leather. It's not very heavy leather.
It's so
very,
thin.
like,
it looks so
it's like-
thin.
it's light.
It looks like Batman's cape.
Sharp doorway.
Yeah, that feels very of the time. Is like light, flowy leather.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so bad. In his little hat, he has like this like the tilted hat that's the same material as the rest of his clothes. Imagine if you were like head to toe in like the same color like canvas, like right now, hat and everything.
Oh, man, you'd look like a school shooter. You just would not look good. I don't know if anything really interesting happens at his grandma's house. I didn't really think.
We established that he likes pie, which is like a Will Smith like Easter egg apparently, because he's a big pie fiend in like the MIB universe, and he's also like really into pie in this movie.
Again, they're drawing, unnecessary comparisons to superior movies. I wouldn't do that if I was.
Maybe they're just trying to capture some of the magic.
Yeah, yeah.
I found it interesting that like the conversation with the grandma established a little bit more of his like robo-racism, like her saying that she wants to get one, and he's like, no, not in this house.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to me that the older generations don't seem to have any issues with the robots, but it's this young guy who does. So it's usually the reverse.
Yeah.
Yeah, going back to Trevor's presumption that he would be like one of those return guys who are just really into like, traditional ways of life. I totally buy that.
He would have his own podcast. Like Detective Spooner would have his own podcast talking about this in 2022 for sure.
What would the name be? It has to have Spoon in it, like setting the table with Spooner, or
That's good.
knifing with Spoon, knifing around. Yeah, we'll workshop it, but I agree he would for sure. It'd have a small but loyal following.
It's yeah. Why do you think that the old people like don't care about the robots at all? Just no reason to?
I mean, to me, go ahead, Raul.
I think the reason it's like it comes at this level, like they don't want to make a movie where the whole of society is like poised against the robots. Like it's a very different kind of like AI movie. Think of the movie AI. Like the tension between
it's like
the robots and the humans is a big part of that movie.
It's the inverse in that movie,
Yeah, it's the inverse.
right?
But
They
doing
hate
it this way, it kind of allows it to. It's just not an issue in the movie. Kind of like cast it off to the side.
Yeah.
Because like I said, I
Yeah.
don't think it really makes sense that they would love it so much in such a small amount of time.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. It's an interesting parallel with AI because you also have the weird, like, climate change. I don't know what's happening with Lake Michigan, but it's dried up, And I think that speaks to the movie's, like, inability to grapple with some potentially interesting things because that doesn't really say anything about, like, what society is like anymore. Whereas AI, the world has flooded and it has torn society apart. And also there are robots, so that's an interesting equation there. But I would say in the movie, if I'm being generous, to me it seems like the robots are more or less like phones to these people, where they're just sort of advanced pieces of technology that are meant to improve our lives. And
Or what? Bones?
Yeah, more or less, just like these sort of helper technology.
Commodity.
Yeah, it's a commodity, and they're giving them to everybody.
I thought.
Yeah, they're applying. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. And they're giving them to everybody. So like, it's almost it's basically a refrigerator that also cooks for you and is artificially intelligent. So that was my sense.
You mentioned something that I was wondering about while watching it this time that like they are giving the robots away for free, right? Like the new ones, like
That's what it seemed like. You're replacing, maybe it's like a free replacement, like a free upgrade, but it sounded like they were just giving everyone, like in every home, everyone would have a robot.
okay, yeah.
But I don't know. Raoul, did you have a different sense?
Yeah, I have no idea.
Yeah.
Mason just asked to join, so apparently he's available.
That
Oh, wow.
motherfucker. Well.
We are talking about the 2004 movie I, Robot, and we were just talking about how robots are like phones / appliances in this universe.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Because the question was, I don't know how recently you've seen iRobot, Mason, but there's like Will Smith is seemingly the only person in the world who's skeptical of robots and doesn't like them. Everyone else is like accepting them. And so if I guess, and we got to the point that like AI is kind of the inverse, where there's a whole sort of rebellious uprising of people that are anti-mech. He seems to be a one-person version of that in this movie. So we were wondering, like, why is that? You know, what's the explanation for everybody basically being okay with them? And that's where we landed, was like, they're pretty much, as Trevor said, commodities. They're just, you have this thing in your home. And they seem to be giving them to people for free. So I guess that's another way to get people to like your product is,
Yeah.
There you go.
Government cheese robots.
So my question is, did you guys like this movie, like, upon rewatching?
Well, we're kind of skipping ahead to the end here. Mason just wants to like dip in and be like, give me your final thoughts, and also then I'm going to leave.
yeah.
I do have two thoughts. So I was just thinking about, I didn't watch this movie, obviously. My two thoughts are, I remember the steelbook of iRobot was really cool when we owned it.
We owned it?
We owned iRobot. I think we got it, like, mom got like a promotional.
That makes sense, yeah.
But I remember the steelbook was really cool. And the second one was that, does Shia LaBeouf like play with a basketball at one point?
He does not play with a basketball.
Football. Is it a football?
He beats a robot with a bat, like a baseball bat.
Okay, it's not as
So
happy as I remember. Okay, never mind.
Hey, Mason.
Just popping in. I have nothing to contribute. I have no takes on this movie.
I don't think I do either.
Mason did just bring up that like Shia LaBeouf is in this movie, which
Oh, yeah.
We were waiting to talk about that. Yeah, that
For a
was an elephant in
surprisingly
the room.
small amount of time.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, that
Like,
popped out
two
to me a lot
scenes.
more.
2 scenes.
He spoke to the kid. I feel like he spoke to me because I remember from Holes, he was an idol for me in Holes.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't remember, what did he do? He's just like Will Smith's like kid friend.
He's the kid. He's
Yeah.
the kid friend. Yeah, whatever you call that, like the movie
Street
trope.
savvy
is.
kid.
yeah.
The short.
I
Savvy
do-
kid who just tries too hard to get into adults' business. Like,
Yeah.
he wants into the adult.
It seems like there's like a perceived like like they were involved with each other because of Spooner's like police work, right? Like maybe he like saved him at some point. I don't think they ever explicitly say that, but it seems like it's implied.
I feel like a lot of his scenes got cut, right? Like, he's just,
Maybe.
there's too little scenes. It just doesn't make sense why he's in it.
Yeah, because this shouldn't have been too far before Transformers, right? Like, what was that? 2008 or 9?
Yeah.
2007. Because this was 2004, so it was between even Stevens and Shia LaBeouf having a legitimate like film career.
Yeah. He didn't seem like out of place at all when I was a kid, just because it's like, oh yeah, it's that guy from Holes. He's just in movies.
Yes.
Right. I love Holes.
I love Holes too, yeah.
Yeah.
I've seen it recently.
Does it hold up?
Yeah, great.
It holes up.
That's so gross. That was my first exposure to John Voight, probably.
He was scary too.
Don't look up Holes Up, though. That's not Holes Up 2018.
Holes up for
You
John
couldn't
Voight.
you couldn't get away with naming a movie Holes now, right? Like you could only get away with it when that movie came out.
That was the source material.
I wonder how many porn like adaptations, spoofs there are of that movie.
Hole. Yeah.
Holes, multiple.
Well, didn't the juice have like a weird, like kind of gross name? Sploosh. That. Come on, man.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah, that stood out to me like as it's like that was never okay.
Yeah.
I found myself laughing out loud with Shia LaBeouf in iRobot because the whole thing is that he's like a dumb kid and he's cussing a lot, and like Will Smith keeps telling him like stop cussing because he's like bad at it. And just like the way that he says it, I know it is like a dumb joke, but like it's still fucking funny what he says. It's like he's like, oh man, Spoon, like I had this girl the other night and she was like ass hot spankable.
Yeah. that was such a funny line.
Yeah, that's objectively funny.
It is
I don't
good.
care who you are.
That's one of those, like, I'm sure as a screenwriter, you probably just have like little scenes that would fit regardless of the movie, and you just need it as kind of filler. You can plug it into whatever plot or premise that you need it to fit into.
Yeah.
They reverse engineered the movie around. All right, what are we gonna do, Rucker?
It was Shia LaBeouf's agent who pitched the whole movie. Jerry Asimov. Well, I want to show you guys something, since this is what I wanted to talk about, Trevor, but I feel like Mason might be able to contribute too. So this movie, since it's futuristic, but also it came out in 2004, I was thinking of that aesthetic that's called Frutiger Arrow. You guys familiar with this?
No.
You are, you just maybe don't know it by this name, so I'll show you. So Frutiger Arrow is this aesthetic from the, I guess I'd say 2000s, where it was like Apple's whole thing, and it was, among other things, but it was like, you know, rounded edges, a lot of blues, light blues.
Was this like the Windows Vista look?
Yes.
Oh yeah, that Arrow is like the name of like there's like a setting in a Windows called Arrow.
I think I know what you're talking about. I think I remember that.
That makes sense.
It was like when Windows 8 came out, there was they adopted the like very flat, like sleek look of the time.
Yeah.
And then like Arrow was the thing that preceded that. It was like the transparent, like reflective Windows of like Windows 7 and Windows Vista.
Yeah, and apparently a hallmark of it is that it's supposed to evoke like a sort of optimistic futurism, but also it's supposed to replicate the thing that your digital iconography is representing. So like on your iPhone screen, if you have a calendar, the calendar actually looks like, the calendar icon looks like a calendar. There's a little drop shadow, you know, it kind of looks like real paper. So less of an icon and more of like almost an imagistic representation of it. So anyway, that it popped in my head as I watched the movie. It's just an interesting juxtaposition, especially because the movie's not that at all, but it also kind of feels like it in certain ways. And maybe that's just the 2004-ness of it.
Yeah,
the robots themselves, right? I mean, that's like
the robots
Apple
do
thing in the movie.
Yeah. The robots do have that feel.
I wonder if like you could say that Frutiger's Arrow, is that you say? If that was an evolution from like transparent like N64 controllers. Like it seems kind of connected to that. So.
That's true. I mean, those precede the Apple computers, right? The Macs.
They're probably around the same time, right?
Were they around the same time? So some designer was just like going hog wild with the transparent plastic. There was one guy, Rudy Frutiger. What's his name?
Now, does the CGI hold up in this? I'm assuming no.
I think it's fine.
In parts, it looks pretty good. I was saying, and I think we all kind of agreed that the Alan Tudyk robot looks good, and most of the robots do. But like I think they kind of nail his look and his action.
Yeah, I found that the older robots look far less realistic than the newer ones. I think because they're supposed to look a little more like physical than the newer ones. They're like old, like rusted metal, and they're overall more clanky than the new ones. But for that reason, like the shortcomings of the CGI like stand out a little more. But otherwise, yeah. Do you guys remember the demolition scene with like where the giant robot tears down the doctor's house while Will Smith
about that
inside it?
Who made that happen?
The Vicky, the main antagonist of the movie.
The computer system?
Yeah, the AI. She like hacked into that robot and triggered the demolition to happen earlier than it should have. I remember being really confused about that when I watched this movie back to back to back as a kid. So I don't think that you're wrong in getting tripped up by that. And I also wasn't even clear that it was like a robot, that like there was a giant robot outside that was tearing the house down. Like that's not super clear in my opinion.
It was a cool set piece. I thought it was a fun little set piece, but I agree it was unclear. It kind of had like Iron Giant vibes, just like a big robot in the dark, and you only see like, its headlights or bits and pieces of it.
That movie.
I will. It does. That's also a movie that's better than this movie. My note about Vicky is that she looks like Kim Kardashian. The like mosaic of her.
Yeah, you're so right.
Yeah.
Wow. That didn't even occur to me. Vicky is a stupid name for this AI, right?
Yeah.
It's an acronym, but like still, like come up with something better than Vicky.
Intelligent computer. I'm just coming up with it.
Kinetic is the K.
Yeah.
Vicky iRobot. Virtual interactive kinetic intelligence.
Kinetic intelligence.
Connecticut intelligence.
Connecticut intelligence.
This movie has some good character actors. I like Bruce Greenwood, who's like the CEO dude. He's just like the classic slimeball kind of guy. I love James Cromwell, and he doesn't get enough to do. He just plays a hologram in this movie, and he delivers like sort of thematic like gobbledygook, but he's good.
His character is really interesting for me because he's like a pre-recorded message. Like he only shows up as that like pre-recorded message that's also like it has like prompts. Yeah. It's like it's a smart recording.
Yeah.
But it also has the ability to like be cryptic and weird. Yes. Like it's not like just a recording of like responses. It like can react. Like, and it can emote, kind of. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. How could you practically ever implement something like that?
It's just like the technology doesn't make any sense to me. Like how?
Yeah, because it's like coy. It'll be like you asked the wrong question, and then it'll disappear.
It's like fucking with him a little bit.
That's a great line at the end though when he's like, "That's the right question." Yeah, that's a very effective.
And then he still shrinks away into his little clamp
disc, his little Tamagotchi.
You have to feed him.
I love me that kind of dialogue. Like, The Matrix is another movie series that does a lot of that kind of vague, just mystic kind of cryptic language.
Yeah. You're stringing the main character along.
Just every scene with the Oracle.
Yeah.
Another movie that's better than iRobot.
Yeah. I don't think we've mentioned a movie that is not better. Where were we in the plot? We were talking about like the purse. How does Sonny, like the main or like the secondary protagonist, get introduced?
It's when he goes to the robotics place. He talks to Bruce Greenwood. He has a weird interaction with him where he reveals that his dad lost or it's implied to some degree that his dad lost a job to a robot, thus his hatred. That's what we think early on in the movie. And then he meets, what's her name? Bridget Moynihan's character, and that's when they go into that little room where the Sonny robot is.
That's right. He's like hiding.
And this is another, going back to his character being insufferable and just shitty. Right off the bat, when they meet, he has this weird like sexual like innuendo at her that feels so off. She's like, so she tells him, Dr. So-and-so or Mr. So-and-so told me to accommodate any need that you have or you know what I mean? You remember that?
Yeah.
And
Yes.
he's like, anything? And he like looks at her, and they're just in a fucking elevator, and he just met this lady, and she's like a scientist. It is so crazy.
Yeah, it's
chaos at all. Like they do it a few times throughout the movie, and it never does anything else.
Right.
That relationship, it's just like a needlessly sexualized relationship in a movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think that's is that Will Smith? Is that the screenplay? Like, where's that coming from? Is that just because that's what sold in 2004?
I feel like I'm like rewatching movies. I've seen so much of that, but I never picked up on just like needless, like kind of misogyny, you know, just the culture, I think.
Sure. And I mean, like, you'll watch stuff that's made in the 80s or the 90s, and it has wildly misogynistic stuff, but you can kind of see, please don't take this as me excusing it or saying it's okay, but you can see, like, maybe it has a point. Maybe it's a funny line. Maybe it's intrinsic to the plot. This was not any of that. It was just like a weird moment where I think they thought, yeah, okay, it's 2004, so this is okay, but also you're Will Smith, so no one's actually going to be offended by it.
It seems like
She's a hot lady, so we know we get it as an audience. We get it.
It seems like something that my parents like definitely laughed at, like when this movie was on TV. You know, that's the reason is that it's in the movies that my parents are laughing at it.
Sure.
So, anyways, back to the Sonny character.
Sorry to interrupt you guys. I'm out of here. I just want to say hi and
Good to see you, man.
yeah, good luck. See you later.
Good luck. Thanks, Mason. Well, that was nice.
What an asshole.
So Sonny, this is like the whole point of the movie, right? Is that Sonny is like different. He's like, with basically the last 3 AI movies that we've watched, like there's like the big AI, like the AI that's like very common across the world, and then there's like a special guy that shows up that has like a different type of AI that like bleeds into consciousness.
It's a messianic kind of role.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Bicentennial Man, AI, this movie. All 3.
Yep. Right. And I forget what it is that like I guess like a lot of this movie is like wrapped up in like the robotics laws in robotics, which Raul told me, I guess that's a real Asimov thing.
Real thing.
Like Asimov wrote those laws.
Yeah.
Is that right? And they're just like that's all they are. They're just like a literary thing that he came up with.
Yeah.
But in this universe, it seems like it's a real thing. Like, it doesn't seem like Asimov exists in this world. They're like, this is like how robotic programming works.
Right. Yeah. They're just they're the rules of the world.
I guess the idea is that like you build this into a robot like at a pretty early stage, like in the fundamental computer architecture or something. And like that's how I think about it. It's like it's deep in there in the way it's designed so that it's just like an impossibility to break.
Right. And I think that Sonny's like supposed to be unique because he doesn't have to follow them. Like does something else.
The mad scientist guy, he did that.
Yeah, he killed
wanted
himself.
That to happen.
Yeah, I think so.
I say I don't really follow why that guy killed himself.
He used Sonny to kill himself. He told him to murder him essentially.
Yeah, because it was the only way, and I'm only going to be able to explain this to a degree. It's the only way that he was going to get the attention of Will Smith, because he knew that Will Smith had that prejudice in him against robots, and so that led him to Sonny. But then we're veering into like me looking at my phone territory. I don't remember the precise details of why that all mattered.
It seemed like the mad scientist was trying to instigate like robotic revolution or something.
Right. Yes.
Like he was trying to like start a race war.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Am I wrong?
That sounds right. I think you're right. Brewell, do you remember differently?
No. Yeah, that's as far as I know. What do you think about the prospects of like the ensuing struggle that's hinted at by the end of this movie? Because the robots are already kind of like kicking ass like pretty much throughout the movie.
Yeah.
They
So
take
what you're
over.
like, I could see a Planet of the Apes sequel trilogy style series of movies where like you see the rise of the Machines is another movie entirely, but you get what I'm saying. Like, yeah,
Well, it's like that one Animatrix episode or short story where it's like the history of like that.
yes,
That's a
Which is
great-
another that short film is better than the iRobot as well.
it is better. Yeah.
the problem with this movie is that it's working in a field with so many other great movies and like saying nothing new and doing it in a worse way.
It's true. No, I would
Sitting on
totally
the
agree.
shoulders of giants, but it's also simultaneously shitting.
That's right. Shitting on the
Sitting on the shoulders of giants.
Shitting on the shoulders of giants. That's a great phrase.
Yeah. Well done.
Oh,
I'm gonna write that down.
Well done.
I made a note that speaking of signs and better movies, the warehouse scene when Sonny's escaped and then they go to that big warehouse and there's 1,001 robots, that it's basically a cornfield scene,
Oh,
right? You have that same
exactly
like
right.
kind of conceit. Yeah, I liked that scene. I thought it was a good scene. I thought
I
it
love
was a
how if you
nice,
bump into a
suspenseful
robot in
delivery.
line, it doesn't topple. It just like absorbs the shock and adjusts itself.
Kind of wobbles.
I love that.
And gotta stand here. I didn't realize that a corn field scene was a thing until you said it just now.
Yeah. And I can't think of I'm sure Children of the Corn had chase scenes set in cornfields. Signs is the only one that
Signs.
comes to mind.
We were just talking about signs. Any movie that like takes place in a farm or around a farm probably has one.
Sure. Like
Would
a
you
creepy,
include like the running through the forest type scenes, like dense jungle forest, and
I don't know, cornfields specifically because they're in rows
Yeah.
and
There's
they're
some-
just tall enough, you know?
there's
there's-
a dynamic where like in certain directions you can basically see really far.
Right.
Yeah.
Others it's invisible.
You're on like a grid and there's a lot of like 90-degree turns like within a cornfield. Like you'll run through a row and then make a turn and then like run through that, make a turn.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's less organic than a jungle.
And that kind of logic takes place here when he sees Sonny flit by, but then he kind of loses track of him. Like he sees him and then he loses him again.
Literally like trying to find a needle in a needle stack.
Yeah.
Okay, so Sonny shows up. He gets arrested, right? I think they like
they
take
get
him
it.
down.
Uh-huh.
They take him to the police station. All the while, like Will Smith is still getting like grilled by his chief. Who is that guy? That actor?
Chai McBride.
Chai McBride, I just pulled it up.
I was gonna say after, I guess this is skipping that, but after they arrest him that night, they go somewhere called the Ovaltine Cafe.
Oh,
That name
Yeah.
is just insane to me. I don't know what the deal is with that.
Ovaltine's like a drink, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like a
like
a
a
Slim
chocolate.
Fast alternative of like of 2004, right?
Well, Ovaltine is old because
Oh,
it
it's
dates back
like
to at least like the 40s.
It's like a Nesquik style.
It's like a Nesquik kind of thing. It's like chocolate
Yeah.
drink. Yeah.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like
I have no idea
It's
what
like
that is.
it's like Oreo to what's the other one? Like the famous cookie that looks exactly like Oreo.
Yeah, not Clorox, but it has a name like Clorox.
Dry something. Oreo other brand. That's what I googled. Hydrox.
Hydrox. Yes. Yeah. So my only thought was, since this takes place in Chicago, maybe Ovaltine is, because I remember it has a big presence in A Christmas Story, and that's in Illinois, I think. So maybe it's like a regional drink, but that doesn't explain why you would name a cafe that in 2035. So I don't know.
Well, maybe it's like
Had,
maybe the movie's like saying like, oh, Ovaltine turned into like the biggest fucking deal like in 2035, and now they're like McDonald's.
Kind of like how in Blade Runner 2049, Atari is like a huge deal because it had to follow the timeline of the original movie, which Atari has a presence in that movie.
That's funny.
So yeah, maybe in this one, like Ovaltine is like, it took over. It's like the drink of choice. It's like the milk in Clockwork Orange. People just drink Ovaltine.
Maybe it's from the original, the primary text.
That's true. That it could be a nod to something that Asimov wrote about. That's a good point. That's a very good point.
Because that would have
too
been
specific.
contemporary with Asimov, right? That would have been like more.
Yeah, I
Like
think
Ovaltine would have been around more.
Yeah, I don't think Ovaltine's around anymore, or if it is, it's not terribly popular.
Does it hint at like a broader kind of like nostalgia class of people, like peers of Will Smith that also harken back?
Well, okay, guys, we have to cut this whole thing because Ovaltine Cafe is a traditional diner in the downtown East Side neighborhood of Vancouver, British Columbia.
Wow.
So
we're just idiots.
The answer is that this was just filmed in Vancouver, as all movies are, and it's a real place.
Wow. Okay. I'm glad I hadn't like convinced myself of my idea too strongly. I'm like, yeah, that sounds right. That's definitely what it is.
Well, that's definitely staying in the podcast. That whole conversation.
Oh, I made a note. So in this scene, they're at the diner, and his police chief confuses the Wolfman with Frankenstein.
That's right.
Yeah.
He tells the story of Frankenstein, but he says Wolfman.
Yeah, I noticed that.
What normal person would confuse those two monsters?
Completely different things. Like just on paper, they're just not close at all. And then Frankenstein and a werewolf are very like normal things to know anything about.
Archetypes, yeah, totally.
Yeah. It reminds me of how like my mother, when I was a kid, like she wouldn't keep up with all the stuff I was watching, so she would just like call everything I was watching Power Rangers.
That's so fun. That's like a different version of like the old thing where like moms would call any video game Nintendo.
Yeah,
right. That's a thing. Yeah. But your mom,
Nintendo mom.
Your mom called every TV show Power Ranger. That's awesome.
It's like, oh, your Power Rangers toy. I'm like, it's not Power Ranger.
To a mom, there are two types of shows in the world. There's Power Rangers and Young and the Restless, and that's it.
Yeah. She was a big like Mexican soap opera watch.
Oh, sure.
Corazón Razón.
That's great.
Anyways,
I think after this, he goes to James Croswell's like house where the demolition takes place, right?
Yes. And then he gets a cat. He finds that cat there.
Oh yeah, he gets
An abandoned cat.
He has a weird line. So this is another thing about his character where he makes jokes to himself, but they're like movie script jokes. So he says to the cat something like, "It would never work out between us. You're a cat. I'm black."
Yeah. Yeah.
Insane thing to say in general.
that got me good.
It got me too. I'll admit it. I'm ashamed
Again,
to say
another like that's just something that you keep in your back pocket as a screenwriter, regardless of the movie.
Yeah, it sounds like a joke I would hear like in a club.
Sure.
Right. It's just like a real jokey joke.
It is. You're a cat. I'm black.
Help me articulate like this kind of dialogue in movies where it feels very much like the screenwriters are just writing to the audience directly. Like it's not like they're telling us a joke through these characters in a very oblique way. It's to me, it's like very indicative of this era's big action movies.
Oh, this era, like right now. Is that what you mean?
No, like iRobot.
Like Oh, I was gonna make the comparison to like Marvel movies and that.
No, but certainly movies now, no doubt.
I wonder if it's because this would be probably similar between the two eras, is that these kinds of movies, especially Marvel, will bring in comedians to punch up the scripts. And so I think I think when you bring someone in like that to literally just add jokes, and the jokes should work, or will probably often work independent of the material. And so to your question, Raul, if it feels like they're just telling a joke to you directly, that's probably because they either just have a joke lined up that they can just drop in the script, or they had to come up with one, but it operates independent of any sort of plot or character development. It's just a joke.
It feels very natural coming out of Will Smith's mouth, though, I'll say.
It does. He's good at that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I just assume that's how Will Smith talks. Right?
He's great at quips, and it does help that he's like kind of known for that. Like from his French Prince.
French Prince.
The French Prince of Bellois.
Yeah,
that's the original.
I'm just gonna leave that one. I saw an opportunity. I'm just gonna choose to ignore it.
I made a note here at that guy's place that so he says something like, "Oh, he left his last transmission," or maybe that's what the screen says, but it's the guy's last transmission. So he turns it on, and this is just such a movie thing where it's like the last transmission is this really thematically relevant speech that the guy's giving, where he kind of lays out the themes of the movie.
He's talking about like the soul.
He's talking about the soul.
Right.
Yeah, the ghost in the machine. He probably mentions the 3 laws. Like, it's all very... I get it. You have to deliver exposition, but there are better ways to do it. It's a little clunky.
Oh, I gotta say, I loved it. I loved that guy and the way he delivered that dialogue.
He's great. He's such a good actor. Yeah, I agree. I think he embodied that kind of character well.
Uh-huh. But it feels to me like something that's indicative of like a B-level movie. Like really a style of movies that I feel like at that moment and for the next decade and a half, like we just rejected, and we like started getting into really different types of movies and TVs that, you know, started with stuff like Breaking Bad, where you're starting to get into the kind of drama territory, and that's starting to get really big. Right. And we just haven't left that. Because this movie was kind of like lame at the time because it was almost like a 90s style action movie and just in its sensibilities.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely you can't say it's extinct, but it's of a kind that feels endangered, which is like these big, like blockbuster action movies that don't feel like they're a part of a franchise or an IP that's necessarily like a popular quantity. Like kids weren't clamoring for Asimov adaptations.
Yeah.
I thought you were gonna say Asimov action figures, which now that you've brought it up, I very do much want that.
Of the actual man, he's a funny looking guy.
I would like an Asimov.
great
Wouldn't that be the coolest thing? Like a little Asimov, like
Yeah,
Sure.
little figure to sit on your desk.
Yeah, of course. I made a note about when he's watching that video, he rewinds it, and when he rewinds it, it has the like tracking lines,
VHS lines.
yeah, like the VHS style lines when you rewind that. Just thought that was really funny. That's just not I guess like a design choice that they anticipated, which is getting rid of that.
Well, certainly in 2004, rewinding digital content was already a thing.
It was already a thing, but it was still not, I think it was still new enough that didn't feel wrong. But like you show a 10-year-old that today and they're like, why does it look that way? I assume that looks so alien to somebody.
It almost feels like a note. Like if someone were to like edit it without that, like in an early cut, they would be like, "Oh, it just doesn't feel like it's rewinding correctly." Yeah. Could you guys like add some like tracking lines to that? Like it
I agree.
feels like
I think that's why so many. Oh well, I think that's why so many, and it's always so apparent. I'm sure to you guys too. When you watch somebody like do something on a computer now, there are still like little beep boop noises that the computers make that computers don't make. Like when you like, I guess I don't have any clear examples, but like when you press a button, it'll make like a little beep noise or something to signify that an action has taken place in the computer.
It's sort of like the tactile noises, like if you turn your sound on your phone and you like do the you type on your keyboard like a psycho.
Yeah.
The sound on.
Oh, that's a good.
Yes, exactly.
But you hear the little clicky clacky sounds.
I think it's just like a kind of storytelling that we haven't been able to like divorce ourselves from yet.
Yeah, that'll do, robot. That'll do. Okay, so the house gets torn down, and then he gets attacked. I think that sort of kicks off him getting attacked by robots, right? Like Vicky at that point has like caught on to Spooner he's like getting closer to solving the case, and so now Vicky is the one controlling like the demolition robot and then all of the other robots that come after him eventually. So he knows that he's getting closer because I think they continue like try to kill him after this point, right? That's where the highway scene probably takes place shortly after this, right?
As shortly after he goes to her house, and then I think the highway scenes after that,
where the big like transport thing vehicle like goes 90 degrees to him, and like that door opens and all the robots are in there.
Yeah. I really appreciate how the cars all have these sphere wheels. So
I think that's
so that you can actually, turn 90 degrees and still be moving forward. And so I thought that was a nice touch on that.
That's the coolest technology in this whole movie, if you ask me, is like this the sphere wheels.
What do you guys think about the like driving the freeway tunnel, all that stuff? Like, what do you think about that depiction, that technology?
That was cool.
I think it's cool. I like that like all the wheels, they look like golf balls in my mind for some reason, right? Does that track with you guys? Did I just make that up? Yeah, it's cool because you can turn at any angle and not sacrifice speed at all. Like even if you're like you're not aerodynamic at all, like you're still just going like 100 miles an hour in like a sideways semi truck essentially.
Yeah.
I like
It looks cool.
it does look
Parking
cool.
solved.
Yeah. I literally parallel parking. When your car gets sucked into the little thing, it turns vertical, and I liked all the like freeway scene, whatever you call that. I just thought of it as a freeway. The only weird thing to me was there weren't ever other cars around. It was always like he was the only one on the road.
Yeah.
And I wasn't sure if that was like a plot point that I missed, like he takes roads that other people don't take or something. I don't know. But I liked how that was all depicted. And
You never really see anyone else in a car at all.
No. It's weird. It's weirdly empty.
Like he's the only one who seemingly even has a car.
Yeah.
In the whole movie.
Yeah. So again, I don't know. That's what made me think like, did I miss some sort of little aside about that would explain why? Because it seemed like such an apparent absence to me. But
I had never really thought about that before, but you're so right. Like he's the only one who's driving. I mean, you could make an assumption that like because the woman doctor character is adverse to like the motorcycle because it runs on gas. That's supposed to be a really funny line, like gas explodes. Maybe like just overall, people are adverse to vehicles, like wholesale. Like maybe it's a society that figured out public transit. Yeah,
that's true. I mean, they're Chicago, so maybe they figured out maybe the L train, tripled in size or something.
I mean, that's like what even now, like what everyone wants, right? There's a whole like anti-car, anti-highway thing where like,
sure,
our society would be better if it was all public transit. So maybe that's just like an assumed part of that future.
I mean, that what is funny about that is the tunnels are what people like Elon Musk want, right? Are these sort of like these bespoke tunnels for these cars, whereas the majority of people probably just want public transport. But I liked this car chase scene in particular. I thought it was like a well executed set piece. I liked the big whatever you call them, vehicles that hold all the robots. And the line where he busts through the windshield and says you were experiencing a traffic or a car accident or a vehicle accident, that was very funny. Very funny and menacing.
Yeah, very menacing. Like the idea that like this violence is happening to you and it's being framed in a way that it's like kind of casual.
Yeah.
and it's like this robot's like fucking gaslighting you and trying to kill you at the same time.
Yeah.
Robot.
When the robots like red lights turn on and they talk, they get real creepy. Because it happens with you guys remember the woman's name, the character's name? But it happens with her robot, right? Where he's like, we're encouraging everyone to stay indoors during this time.
In fact, I think they all turn red, right? For that reason, like, don't they all get the message and they,
Yeah, they all turn red, and that's when
Only
they
like newer models.
And I think that like the reason the old ones don't do that is because they like aren't wireless or something. They're like not on the same network.
Right. They're just like not connected to the main Vicky.
That's cool, right? Like
that's a cool idea.
They're like analog robots almost. They're like not online. So
It's like the Terminator AI. It's as if like they're not part of the cybernet network.
Right.
They're just like separate robots.
Our iPod didn't track us.
our phone does, but our iPods didn't.
Right.
Our iPods were just there to protect us.
You needed to still physically sync with iTunes.
Right.
You know, those robots needed to physically like sync to something to like update.
Yeah. So those robots, like those older robots, make me think that the movie might be pretty optimistic towards human-robot relations going forward, because those robots were never an issue. Like they had a perfect track record as of the beginning of the movie, and then disregarding those new models, which were essentially evil because Vicky was evil and she was killed.
Right.
That should absolve the robots. So I think maybe it'll be like a nice, chill, symbiotic relationship going forward.
They were simpler machines because like Vicky like was trying to take the laws to their absolute conclusion, right? Which is just exterminate humans because they want to destroy themselves. But like those older robots had just a very like basic interpretation of the laws, like very unproblematic.
What do you think of the like hinting at, the soul in the machine at the end of the movie? The montages of them like huddling together. Remember like when he's like narrating them huddling together, and then at the end, like the lone messiah on the hill and them all following him.
Mm-hmm.
That's very evocative. Very.
It seemed like it only really ever got into like, Sonny is the only guy who's questionably conscious because he can disobey the laws, and I guess that's why he's the messiah. But how like the soul of the rest of the robots is called into question, I'm not so sure. Like I'm not really, because it's like the older robots in those like storage containers during that montage where it's sort of implied that they have some sort of underlying soul-like behaviors, but I don't really know what to make of that other than just that line. When
it does take pains to humanize them, right, and make us feel empathy for them.
They look cuter. They're like a cuter looking robot too. So I don't.
Yeah. They're kind of huddling in the little storage bins.
Well, and they like save him. Remember when he's running away from the horde of them, and they all jump out because their instinct is to protect humans,
right?
Mm-hmm.
And so they slow down the new Sunny units. I mean, I think this is again like a place where the movie fumbles some potentially interesting questions, and other movies cover these questions in much better ways, like AI, that it directly addresses that, whereas this sort of like, this is how it ends, and we'll let you draw your own conclusions or fill in the gaps. I don't think it's interested in actually grappling with figuring out the ghost in the machine.
I do like the idea that like the older robots, and I guess like AI probably does this to some degree also, the older robots are like a lower form of AI, but nevertheless conscious and with a soul. They're like animals almost. I do like that idea. I do think that those other movies talk about that in a better way, but worth bringing up. I think it's interesting.
Yeah, AI does that well in the flesh fair sequence when you have those old models that they're like destroying, but you still feel sympathy for them, and they seem to be endeared, to Haley Joel Osment's character in a way that would suggest soulfulness.
On the part of the humans, I just think they didn't want to I think the visuals was just not good for them. Like they couldn't accept this picture of them tearing apart this boy.
Yeah, totally.
Because they weren't the humans didn't seem like they were that into the fair. Like it's like a fun Saturday night. Like they're not there. Like that's almost too political of a statement on the part of this carnival to do this super realistic kid. It's crossing a line that these carnival goers don't want to cross.
Sure.
I want to talk about when you meet Sonny and he talks about having dreams and he draws a picture and how the way in which he draws the picture is really interesting. It's probably one of the more interesting things about this movie. It's that he moves in perpendicular lines. He can't draw diagonal. So he's essentially just doing a really complex crosshatch. But because he's a robot, he can do it with such precision. It looks like how, I think Raul, you called it a printer. It looks like how a printer would print an image. I just think it looks awesome. His hands are just vibrating super fast across the page.
Yeah.
With both hands.
What do you think of the fact that what he drew was a premonition? Is this robot prescient? Can you see the future?
Must be
a robot. It's crazy.
If I wanted to give this movie more credit than it deserves, you could say something about just predictive AI, how it's algorithms are generally pretty accurate about that sort of stuff. So you could make the leap that oh yeah, he can probably in some part of his brain see the outcome of this movie perfectly, but I don't.
Algorithms.
Yeah, I'm not gonna I'm not gonna say that that's what the movie's saying because I don't believe that necessarily.
Yeah. I wonder what our sort of general grasp of predictive AI was in 2004 as far as Hollywood screenwriters go. I have no idea. But I mean,
concept for it.
Right, but I would say if this was produced today, that would be a safe bet. Is that it's seen as the algorithm doing its thing.
I hate it when stuff does that. I don't know about you guys, but the latest season of Westworld really disappointed me because it did a lot of that. I don't know if any of you saw it.
That show is just garbage as far as I'm concerned now. I watched the second season and was disappointed, and the third season was barely watchable for me. So I don't know. Is there a fourth season?
Yeah, there's a fourth season, and so nobody's seen it, but part of the plot is that there's this super mainframe computer, and it can do predicted. You can use AI, and it'll take all your stats, all your metadata, and it can basically know a lot of stuff about you and your future. Mm-hmm. It's a subplot in this, which is obviously using some really fresh contemporary technology concepts that have been popular. But I hate it. I hate it when movies and media do that. I find it so annoying.
Just leaning on predictive AI as a fortune teller sort of device.
Just more generally putting in contemporary techie stuff, specifically for sci-fi type movies that want to do that, freshen up their screenplay by putting in some poppy and buzzwords.
What's another example of that?
There's plenty of examples. I can't even.
I'm sure. I just want to know. I'm sorry. One.
Trash television will do it a lot. We were watching The Blacklist for a little bit. You ever seen that? It's an NCIS. It's a terrible thing.
Just watching a lot of bad stuff at Raul's house.
I'm no stranger to bad TV, but I hear you. I think I see it most when it comes to sort of really of the moment slang, especially social media slang,
sure,
or references to a Twitter meme from 9 months ago, right? Or you're talking about Instagram shit, all those things that will be super dated within another 9 months, if not sooner. I hate that.
Yeah. Dropping in current a TikTok reference a year or two ago into a show Like that's a good example of that.
Have you guys seen
Also annoying.
The Boys, the Amazon show?
Not past the first few episodes.
They do this thing in like I think the third season where the premise, it's like superheroes but they're like bad. They're like just like regular people as superheroes, so they're all like shitty. They do this thing in like the third season where all of the superheroes are like celebrities just like by default, and one of them sort of takes like an alt-right sort of position like with his celebrity and thereby like gains a following of like that niche of people. And it follows like the trajectory like perfectly of just like Trumpism. Like it's as if like the superhero himself was Trump. Like they adopt like word for word some of like the same phrases, like maybe not as on the nose as like "Make America Great Again," but stuff like that.
Obvious allusion.
Yeah, and then there's like red hats. Like it's all over the place. And I know that's not exactly the same as what you're talking about, but like it feels, I don't know, it feels like it would hit a little different if you were to watch it like 20 years from now.
Sure. Better or worse 20 years from now?
Worse, I think.
Yeah, I would agree with that. It's really tricky because if you want something like that, you want it to be satire and satirical. But you have to consider like, I think there's a balance to be had between specificity and I guess I don't know what the other thing on the scale is, but you can't be too specific, I guess.
Yeah.
Or else it starts to feel like an SNL sketch that was written a week after something happened.
They're terrible for doing stuff like that. Like now it's just
SNL is
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like they made a sketch on Be Real, that new social media app. And just that concept of like taking that and making a sketch on it is like, to me,
that's lame.
It just like, it speaks of they're coming from such a bad place comedically and no integrity at all.
But at least SNL is designed to be like temporary and like it is designed to be speak to like that week's events or that sort of the zeitgeist of the moment. When you have something that's like a produced TV show or a movie that should maybe be a little more like out of time, even if it's a satire speaking directly to our time, that's tricky.
Here, how about this? This is my proposal. We wrap up the movie and then we finish off the night with what's the fuck is that segment? What do you got? What's
the gas in your ass?
Honest.
We used to call it, I was just talking to my friend about this the other day. It was originally called What's Gassing You Up? And then at one point in an episode I said, what's that gas in your ass? And it made Raul uncontrollably laugh. And so I'm sticking with that one.
Like it.
Okay, so wrap up what we think of this movie. Overall, did you guys, Mason asked this, but he didn't really get a straight answer out of any of us. Did you guys overall like this movie? Did you like watching it?
I think it went over well in my household. I think my partner liked it. And since I was going to be, like, I would never rewatch it by myself, but since I was rewatching it with somebody, they enjoyed it. I enjoyed the experience of rewatching it with them. And so that was good. It was good.
I could report something similar where it was overall like a good experience in my house. Like in Grace, I don't think she had ever watched it before. Overall, like good vibes watching it. But I think for myself personally, I did not have like as good a time watching it as I probably did as a kid in 2004. It felt a little dumb by comparison. I definitely enjoyed it less than any other time I've watched this in my life.
Yeah, I'm probably not ever going to revisit. This movie had held a special place in my heart. Not that special, but it is a movie that I saw in theaters when I was pretty young. And I didn't go to the theaters that often at that time in my life. So now watching it now, it's kind of like now I can put my heroes to bed and not ever think about this movie ever again.
Your heroes. They're all here. Will Smith as a misogynistic asshole. James Cromwell, Violet hologram.
Bye. They're like waving away.
Gigi was about to get assaulted by a robot.
One with the inhaler.
The woman, arguably the goat of the movie, is the woman with the inhaler.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would echo those. Like I said earlier, I think it's too long. If they could tighten it up, and honestly, I'm cool with the dumbness. Not that I want it or invite it, but fine, whatever. It's a big, dumb action sci-fi movie. It's just too long. There are some predictable parts, and yeah, I don't know. Overall, I would say it was a fine watchable experience. I won't be revisiting it.
I liked the exercise of watching this movie because I didn't have any like particularly like high expectations of it, but it was nice to like revisit a movie that I've seen many times in my childhood and like generally hold in like pretty high regard, and then watch it now and realize like, oh yeah, my brain has like evolved a little bit more since the last time I saw this movie, whenever that was.
Right.
Is a nice little mile marker for me, I guess.
Yeah. That's interesting.
I think movies are nice that way, in that you can watch, they stay exactly the same. You rewatch them at different points in your life and they just feel different. And you're like, oh, it's like a natural experiment.
Did this movie, did you guys have the same experience of this movie being on FX like every day?
Yeah. Yeah. But I never partook. Like, I stayed away for some reason. So I haven't seen this movie since I saw it in theaters.
Fair enough.
If I saw this movie playing, I would not sit down to watch it. I would change channel.
You would leave.
Changing the channel, a bygone activity.
That's true.
It's not like you would like back out of Netflix and like change to a different app. I hate this show so much I need to change the streaming platform.
Home button. Home button.
Thanks for listening. Filmhole is produced by just us, myself and Raul. Our music is by W, that's underscore the word double and 2 U's. Get Filmhole wherever you listen to podcasts. If you like it, rate it. If you hate it, maybe don't. Thanks again. See you next time.